Welcome to Deep Thought. Who has the power? A politician or a businessman? I'm going to tell you what, and I know somebody was like, hey, Ron, first you talk about the rich one here, and then you talking about politicians and businessmen. You know what, man, it's all metaphysical, man. Trust me, it's all metaphysical. If you look at just advertising for like on a political campaign, it's very metaphysical. When they have, like, say a politician does an ad and they show, I'll use a white man. They showed a white man, an older white man, look like he's responsible or something. And they might show him fired from a job or not being able to get a job or something. That's going subliminally into white male voters. Or back in 1988, when Michael Dukakis was running against George Bush the first for president. And one thing that sunk Michael Dukakis was the Willie Horton ad. You know, you showed this big menacing black man, and you know, this dude had been, I think, paroled or pardoned by Dukakis. And I'm trying to think about what the exact thing was, but it did something. He presented this image, and it did something to the psyche. So, you know, what politicians do, how they speak, even something as simple as kissing a baby, that's all metaphysical. It's subliminal. You know, that's why they do what they do. Like Obama, when he was first campaigning in 2008, and they showed him in a pool hall just playing pool. It was in a state he lost anyway, but you know, stuff like that is all subliminal, right? And a businessman or a business person, the entrepreneur or, you know, business owner, shoot, well, money itself is metaphysical. It's a currency. If you really think about it, right, it's not even like the dollar bills, because as Master Teacher BGS said in one of his, I'll call it a challenge hangouts, and I was just like, yeah, he's right. It's like we kind of at cryptocurrency anyway, because at this point, how many people actually use dollars for stuff? I mean, I keep dollars. I still use them occasionally. But it's just as easy to, you know, one of my sweeties, like, just texted. But the show goes on. I'll get back with her. But, you know, it's like, you know, you thinking in terms of, when you look at the money, it's all the energy, even the way of flowing. In fact, I know some stuff. I'll have to get permission to share it, some knowledge about money and how it is a currency. There's even some like rituals you can do to actually get money. But there's a certain energy to it. There's a certain energy that if people have it, they're going to draw money to them automatically. You know, it's in fact, that's one of the things I'll be talking about in a webinar for my private folks. Anyway, right? Who has the power? Even though, and they both kind of go hand in hand, because what the politician does is create the environment for the businessman to operate. You know, just with laws and everything. I'll give you an example. Hopefully they've changed something in the District of Columbia, hopefully, since I had started a business there. But they made it so it was like a whole bunch of rigmarole just to start a sole proprietorship, right? And so it was just like, damn, I'm doing all this to start a business, all this damn red tape. You know, that's a political thing. Now, when I started a business, when I moved to Virginia, I started a business. It was so easy, it scared me. I was like, that's it? The clerk was like, yeah. I was like, I was expected to be here for a few hours. And got to go to this building, that building. And, you know, and then when I started a business in Maryland, it was kind of in between. Yeah, honestly, it was kind of in between. But politicians make the environment. But then I would put more power with the businessmen. Because how do the politicians get in? They have to have their campaigns have to be financed. Somebody has to write a check, right? And really, what politicians really are, they're really hitmen for businessmen. If you look at many laws, it benefits somebody. Every single law benefits somebody. if you have a law that says, hey, there's a curfew, like you get some politician who says there's a curfew, right? And some businessmen say, wait a minute, I own some clubs and stuff. I need people to be out. And they'll say, hey, we'll give you $10,000, towards your reelection campaign. Oh, guess what? That proposal for a curfew gets tabled, right? So the businessman, because what happens is a businessman can actually create a whole lot. In fact, I'm going to give y'all a rare treat. I'm going to read a passage from my first, it wasn't that long, but you could call it my first novel. It was called Sellout. Hold on for a second. Yeah, because I thought about this because in my book Sellout, the main character, his name was Dexter Williams. He was a guy, he had been an attorney, he was a public defender, but then he kind of left it all behind, got into business, right? And, he's having a discussion with the main female character in it, Gina, right? So, he's explaining because she had a problem. She's like the politician, activist type, and that wasn't him, even though he's feeling it, right? So, but he was changing how he was going to do stuff because he said, okay, here you go. Please hear me out. When I left PDS, I wanted to help people. I wanted to keep them off drugs, out of jail, in homes. That's something you can't do in a courtroom or staging a protest march. I was going to help people in a better way. Then Gina responds, by becoming a rich businessman? Then Dexter continues, Gina, think about it. I employ directly well over 1,000 people, many of whom have families, all of whom are paid generously, and I have great benefits, including retirement plans. I have over 100 rental properties in the Washington area that are kept up and provide stable living environments, even my apartment complex in Southeast. I rent out exactly 83 retail properties that house a variety of businesses, particularly black-owned businesses. I also have an interest in other businesses as well. I have a consulting firm to help people get started in business. I also have an employment service which, since starting last year, has placed over 600 people in jobs. Look how much I do for the community. We need more than people who are going to deal with the problems as they occur. We need to prevent the problems from happening. Now, it was interesting why I included that scene, because I actually got that from a comic book multi-billionaire villain and stuff, right? Because he said, well, wait a minute, they not going to mess with me because I keep the economy of the area up. That's a lot of power. If you think about it, right? See, the businessman, they actually have more of an effect on people than a politician. Because politicians come and go. In fact, people might not notice the politician until they run afoul of some rule or something, or even care. And I mean, how many people in political places really pay little attention to people running for city council or something? I mean, you have a situation, even in this country, where only 50% of the people are registered to vote. Of eligible voters are registered to vote, and then out of that, if 50% of that even shows up to the polls, it's considered a high turnout. You talking basically if 25% of the U.S. population votes, that's a high turnout. So a lot of people, they don't even care. A lot of people might be complaining about Trump but didn't show up to the polls or care either way. But people do care about jobs. People do care about the economics. And contrary to popular belief, governments only create government jobs. Let me say that again. The government, they only create government jobs. Even in contracting, right? Politicians, even in contracting, somebody has to create the business for the politician to award the contractor. All right? But you still need the business right there. Right? So the businessman, I would say they have more power, even though the politician's power is still important and needed, which is why many businessmen have politicians in their back pocket. And, this is something I really realized for people who have that argument, because I know some people come on and say, well, it's the politicians. Like, well, I saw this up close and personal, and I've mentioned this in other videos. I remember I sat with some power brokers in D.C. and a meeting with some power brokers in D.C. back in '96. Now, these weren't politicians. In fact, I was there with someone who was running for city council, right? Because I was working with him on his campaign, right? I was there with him, and even the matter we were there for didn't really have anything for him to do. Didn't have anything to do with running for council. Didn't have a single thing to do with that, right? There's something else. It was something deep. Let's just say it had international implications. I'll leave it at that. One of my prouder moments, though. Anyway, right? I peeped that the power brokers there, they were owners of some of the bigger businesses in the D.C. area. I mean, I could name names. But these dudes is like, but you know how you never really see the owners of stuff actually in the paper? Well, I was sitting there with them. Cool guys. It's like, you just think these some like shopkeepers or something, or some guys you wouldn't even think anything about. But despite all the political stuff, these were the guys who ran the city. So the politician, because the businessman, because they create the jobs, they create the lifestyle. They decide how a person's going to live just by the salary. Think about that. And, you know, when I think in terms of, you know, especially in the black community, when we think in terms of power, we got to look at the business side. We got to look at the money, you know, because even now I'm like, there's a friend of mine who actually needs a job. I don't have a job to give him at this point, but I actually know how to create a job for him. And it's something I'll probably do just for tax reasons. I probably won't get started on stuff like that until 2019. So anyway, right? That's it. It's just something to think about. I want y'all to think about that. All right? Because deep thought, like I said, is deeper than sometimes people get all into the metaphysics, the sun and moon and all that. And they forget all of that is really supposed to help you just live life. So you still got to deal with money and everything. So anyway, that's it for now. I'll talk to y'all. Peace and blessings.